We've been talking about Atlantis for almost
I know
2 years.
We even traveled to Tony Merkel
yeah.
to talk about Atlantis.
And it never came up.
We talked for 4 hours or something.
Yep.
Shout out to Tony and the confessionals. I'm sure people watching know Tony, but if you don't, you got to look him up.
The best dude.
He is the best. We had a great time. You can find that episode on YouTube right now with me and Wesley. But somehow we didn't talk about Atlantis.
We did not.
But maybe
we did get a whole bunch of food spilled on us at the Texas Roadhouse, as I recall.
Oh my goodness, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the lady there was basically telling us that she believed in that part of Tennessee there might have been the Havana syndrome.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yeah,
she's like, she came to our table. She's like, do you guys hear that ringing or something? That high pitch?
Yeah.
Like, are we getting Havana syndrome right now? And then
like, you don't know. And Tony was like, you have no idea what table you just walked onto.
We all took out our notepads like, tell us more, please. So before we started recording, you were telling me about there's a thing happening at your house.
Yeah. So it's been happening since moving in, which was what? November, mid-November. And it started out really slow, just little stuff. And then it quickly plateaued.
What was the little stuff before we get to the plateau?
So like the first thing that happened was voices. And it was like, and why I would say that's little is because...
I mean, that's kind of big.
It is, but it seemed little because we thought that there was a reasonable explanation.
Okay.
So it was like, we can hear the neighbor on one side of the house. Like there's only like 4 or 5 feet between their wall and our wall.
Okay.
And these are houses, by the way. So it's literally like, it's so weird. Like houses are not normally like this. Our house is back set, his is front set, and they kind of like cross like this.
Are they attached?
No.
So there's a little space?
There's a little
4
space.
to 5 foot space?
Yeah, it's super small.
Oh, wow.
And so there's like a window on his side and then a window on our side. They're always closed, but it's just a little little crossover, a little overlap.
Weird.
And they're really close together, but the majority of his house is out. The majority of ours is the other direction. Right. And we're like, okay, so that's what that is. Until, and this was the crazy part, one night we were in the room where you would hear that from, right? And then on the other side of the house, just there's nothing. It's a field, essentially. And like it's even weirder because there is a street across the street, but it's like 10 feet down. There's like a retaining wall and it goes down. And so there's a house across the street with the people that wear the Young Turk shirts, which is hilarious.
That is hilarious.
But you can't hear them at all. There's a earth blocking it and a cement wall. So we're in the side of the house where like, if this was the wall to that house, you'd be like, oh, it's coming from right there. It's him. And his voice is very, very easy to distinguish.
Right.
And I'm not going to say why, but it's a very unique voice. And this voice was different and came from the other side of the house.
Oh boy.
And it was not like, you know, you can just like with how reverb works and how like if something sounds far away or close, or you can kind of tell if it's a TV or if it's a real voice because of the way it bounces through the room. This was a real voice in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And then I realized that my dog, who is always my shadow, was in that room alone.
Oh boy.
Which she does not do. Like she is attached to me at the hip.
Right. Can you say your dog's name?
Charlie. She is always where I am.
Love it.
And
but this time, for whatever reason.
Yep, she was alone. And actually, we were doing a Bible study. And
what were you? Where in the Bible?
Genesis.
Okay.
And
first thing we ever talked about, actually, I think, was Genesis.
Yep.
And
Begot was where we were.
Yep.
And I was like, time out. And it was like somebody talking to my dog. And I went in there.
Voice?
Huh?
Can you describe the voice?
It sounded like me.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. It sounded like me, but like not exactly. Like it sounded like somebody who could be my brother. You know how
right.
Yeah.
There's a certain intonation there that sounds like you, but it's just a little off.
Yeah. So like it sounded like somebody who has a voice similar to mine, but doesn't have the same exact, like I have a kind of a baritone, not very heady voice. This was one that sounded a little bit more average sounding, but same, like it had this, it was more baritone. sort of like you, actually, like
right.
sort of that same kind of
Oh boy.
voice. And it sounded like it was like trying to keep it down. And like the hair on my arms was like up. And I went in there, and the dog was just sitting there kind of like not looking at the door, not looking at me coming into the door, and just kind of sitting facing the other way, which also strange. And I don't know, like at this point, other things had happened. Like Taylor had been woken up in the middle of the night by hearing, "Hey!"
Oh boy.
like 2 or 3 times, like somebody like screaming right in her face.
Wow.
And Charlie Charlie typically is like asleep, but she was standing up looking at Taylor. And Ian suggested that it was Charlie telepathically communicating with her, trying to say like, I have to go out. It's
As
like,
Ian would.
As Ian would.
Okay.
But then another strange thing happened. Like there were a lot of like little things that I don't particularly remember. One was just suddenly it was 2 a.m. and I was like trying to fall asleep, and I was looking out the bedroom door, and suddenly it was light in the living room.
What?
Like just the light.
What time of the day did you say it was?
Like 2 a.m. And not like daylight. It was like a blue glow.
Oh wow.
And it's sort of like if a TV was on.
Yeah.
But it didn't like blink. It was very slow.
Whoa.
And rose. And it wasn't still. It was like almost like blue, but like a candle.
Whoa.
But it was really bright. Like bright enough to where like you lose the detail in the wall.
Wow.
Like overexposed to the eye. And I just like jumped up and ran out there. Gone. By the time I crossed the threshold of the door, gone.
What?
And so my instinct was that somebody was shining up like a LED light through the front window, and it was hitting the living room. And I was like, that's got to be it. That explains the movement. It was like a hand.
Right.
So I tested that, went outside with the flashlight, held it through, and I was like, this doesn't work because I could see every line from the blinds.
Wow. Yeah.
And
wow. All the shadows were gone.
Yeah.
When you were seeing it.
Yes, no shadows. It was like it was happening right there.
Yeah.
And I also tested the TV, like turned the TV on to the like
aux or something.
Yep. Yeah. And it just doesn't light up that side of the room because
wow.
It's facing the wrong direction, and it would completely fade by that point. But it was bright right there, and I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then
did you just go back to sleep after that? Like, what
no, I called Brian. Called Brian, and he was like, "All right, take 24 photos from every different angle."
Oh yeah, that's right. He's great at that, dude. Yeah.
And he ended up like staying the night a few times.
Wow.
With, like recording equipment, things. Yep. Nothing.
I knew he was there.
Yep. And it really did act up every time that I cracked open a Bible, which is the crazy part. And then it kind of died off for a while. And then recently it's been picking back up to where things are moving across rooms. Like there was some stuff setting on like the shelf in the bathroom, and just for no reason, it launched from that shelf against the shower wall and into the shower.
Like, are these certain things that it's weird? Like, do you think they're specific objects? It's just anything they can move?
No, it was just like bathroom stuff. Like it was like shampoo and like a toilet paper roll or whatever you have on the shelf that's above, and it just, and like hard, it hit the wall hard. And then yesterday, 2 things. A hanger was hanging on, like the hanger thing came off and hit my dog, the other dog, Tucker, in the face. Like he's not like in the vicinity. It goes and hits him, and he's freaked out.
Yeah,
like,
of course,
like not understanding why this happened. And he's 7.5 months old, so he's confused by most things. But nobody threw it at him,
right? And
nothing. There's no like we were like, okay, maybe it was the air thing. Unlikely, but check it, right?
Yeah.
Nope, nowhere near it. Can't explain it. And then last night, just the sound of things that it sounded like glass or ceramic and metal, like having a metal tote filled with ceramic, like picking it up a foot off the ground and dropping it 2 times in a row.
Really?
But there's nothing
Was it from a certain area in the house?
in the kitchen.
You said kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Which was at the where I was sitting, like with my back to the kitchen, and I had headphones in, like listening to, ironically, like a talk about giants and, but it was just boom, boom, and I like during the first one turned and the other one happened before I got all the way around, ran into the kitchen. And my first thought was like, maybe there's dishes in the drying rack and they all fell over. No,
Nothing.
nothing there. The sink only had 2 plastic mixing bowls in them. And that's it. I was like,
what are your theories on this kind of event?
I have no idea.
Yeah, are you totally like when it comes to this? Are you thinking demons, ghosts? Like where do you lie?
I don't believe in ghosts.
You don't.
I mean, I guess I do. I just don't think they are.
What people think they are.
Yeah. Or maybe they are to an extent. I don't know.
What do you think they are? Like what?
I don't know. I don't like because I try to base everything I believe on a biblical explanation, and the Bible's unclear about ghosts. It does say that when we die, we don't linger on earth, but it does say that evil spirits do, unclean spirits do. So is that a ghost or a demon, or it's both?
Right.
But they do also talk about which ghost? It's the medium that brings back the ghost and is like shocked that she did it.
Yeah, with the king.
Yeah.
Not Saul.
Witch of Endor?
Oh, no. Obviously in the Bible there's a witch.
Yeah. So I'm talking about brings
Endor.
back this spirit of
Saul or Samuel?
Is it the ghost of Daniel? I can't remember.
He goes and asks for him to resurrect or bring him back from the dead.
And she does, and she's blown away because she's a charlatan.
In a time when witches are like outlawed.
Yeah.
In the Bible, yeah.
And like probably not like real, like they're it's performative or
like the magicians for the Pharaoh type situation.
Well,
what would you say about those?
Because
they were doing a lot of things Moses was doing.
Yes.
But it seemed like you could interpret it as illusions because at a certain point they can't do it.
Or there's a line that the Egyptian gods, which I believe are real, couldn't cross, and then God, like every single curse from the Bible was a specific slam against one of them. It's like you can't do this, and you're the God of this. And look at me. The Most High. Misunderstanding about the term God, but I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I also think there is something to the environmental recording theory.
Stone tape?
Yeah, stone tape. And just like that your mind is the antenna.
Yeah.
That
I'm with you on that.
That allows it. And so it's like it's not something that's happening to you, it's something that you're perceiving as happening to you.
You're like receiving it, even though it's only you. It's like a tuning fork in your molars.
Yeah, something like that. And even sounds, phantom sounds. And I don't know. Like it doesn't I don't know how to explain the stuff flying off the wall, to be honest. But,
I think it's hard to explain this stuff. I would just open up. I mean, do you have a certain part of the Bible or a prayer you have to help rid yourself of this?
Not exactly. Not like a one I go to. I think the Psalms.
I was just going to say, I referenced them last week too.
The Psalms or just pray as the Lord told you to, like, our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Like, if you don't know how to pray this way, or just invoke the name of Jesus, like, and speak to him. Like, I don't think that I'm not a ritualistic Christian where it's like, this is the exact, it's about the genuine connection you have with the Lord and talk to him on that level.
You just upset all the Catholic listeners.
I know. Sorry, Catholics.
Sorry, Mary.
I mean, it's about a personal.
But I feel that like you can pray. I've done that too. Encountering evil is what made me have faith after years of none. Right. And it was like, if that kind of evil can exist, I believe that on this planet, I've seen balance of life and death. If there's that kind of evil, there's then gotta be. It was like a light switch went off in my head. There's gotta be that.
I think that happened to a lot of people during COVID.
100%.
Like it just, you're like, oh, this is untenable evil, and
a tale as old as time.
Yeah,
it's like this is just what humans are cyclically trapped in the war of.
I think one of the biggest things that holds people back is they think that people are inherently good and they become bad, and then you realize that people are just inherently flawed,
constantly fighting against the sin nature.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And like the other part of it is like with what she was talking about. She was phenomenal.
Great guess. She killed it. Yeah.
Talking about isn't it funny that these deep, dark places, it always comes back to the same like horrible things. It's Canaan. Yeah. It's, it's Tyre.
Ball.
It's the same things. And it, like, you could say that this is just part of human nature and they put a face and a name on it, but it could be the other way.
Yeah.
And like the way around those things seems to be the way that was handed to us by the one who came and rose again. Like it just all fits together too perfectly. And that's with every single, Christians get asked a lot, like, why do you think your one is the right one? It's like, because look what happens to every other one.
Right.
Like they all like devolve into like Baal. Like they all do.
Yeah.
Like they want you to do these specific things. They want to corrupt your youth, just like the people here when it's like, oh no, evil is really just people. Is it? Like, yes, it is. They're the ones doing it, but who is the one pulling the strings? Is it flesh and blood, or is it principalities and powers of the air that our struggle is actually against?
I think it's everywhere, and you're constantly fighting it. And there's weaknesses in the defense of your immune system to evil constantly, and you have to learn to be very aware of those weaknesses in your defense, because I think you're under attack at every angle from everywhere throughout your whole life.
Yeah. I did find it really fascinating. Like as she was going down her, like she could have been talking about any case, and like you brought up the point is like, are we just living in this strange post-project, post-operation reality where there's just these remnants of these different things, and that seemed really poignant and like true, but they say like with the Q stuff, remember, like it's Hollywood, it's the government, and it's like, oh, it's just these strange evil people, but every single time they're connected to something, and it's like, no, it is like, why wouldn't they be the ones like this with Manson? Why is he seemingly have some sort of like CIA handler? Why was she told that there was a suicide when that clearly wasn't the case? Like what is the protection for? What is that? Makes it seem like even though maybe every single individual who's involved isn't tied together like directly, there is something. It's like that show, the Octopus Murders show. It's like there's something. You haven't watched it? No. You're gonna love it. Okay. There's something. There's a core. There is something tying these together, however tangentially and loosely, and that's everything from domestic terror to PDF files to the
any
people
evil
who run.
entity.
Yeah, it's all
every
tied
level
together somehow.
Yep, I think evil is like unfortunately very intelligent, many tentacled organisms. Speaking of octopi, octopuses. I don't like
Hydra.
Octopuses. Hydra, exactly. Dude, it's everywhere, and it's like you don't have to be connected.
Hydra literally is Operation Paperclip. Like they just put it in your face. That's another thing is like they put it in your face, like Captain America, the Winter Soldier is like you just told us.
Yep.
And
but they like to.
Yeah, and that like I wanted to interject at one point with she was talking about was it the Order of Nine Angles? Yeah, that's what she was describing is the show Archive 81.
Interesting.
Like,
I don't know about
Netflix. It is that to an extent.
I mean, I think a lot of this stuff gets some of it. I have a hard time believing it's all predictive programming because I think some of it just leaks out of the operations. Like MK Ultra was going on for at least 10 years before the guy wrote Manchurian Candidate. You know, then that blew up on the mainstream scene. All of a sudden, people were worried about brainwashed assassins. Yeah. But and then JFK happens a few years later. You know, the movie I think came out a year before the assassination, and it was like this fear in the air. And I could look back and be like, oh wow, predictive programming. But it's like those people were connected to information that had been, I think, leaked out of these projects. There was like at least 100 sub projects of MK Ultra, and it wasn't. I mean, it was a secret, but there was obviously a lot of people who knew about it.
Yeah, but it was all of these things are like onions of like what do you think you know, and then the predictive programming. Like some people say they put it out there so that you're open to the idea and accepting it, and it's like no, it's so that you look at it and go, that can't be real. It's a movie. You got the idea from the movie.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
And
you discredit the reality that it's actually that bad.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you're just saying that like you want to live in a movie so bad that you're willing to say that people are like this, and it's like, but and then sometimes I think that there is the explanation that makes sense that they allow stuff out that is way worse than reality, so that when you automatically go towards the worst thing and like look at this and it's easily disprovable, and it disproves the 75% things that aren't quite that deep.
Right.
And it's like, well, if that's not true, then none of it's true.
I know you have to look at everything with skepticism, even like the way you're describing your situation in your house. Your gut feelings to be like, it's got to be like the dishwasher.
Yeah. That happened, and like I have told myself that it was my puppy Tucker in his crate, like messing with the crate. Maybe, but like it was really loud.
And the light thing is also very bizarre.
It was really bizarre.
And also, like, I grew up in a really old house. People have heard me say this a lot on the show now, but a really old house, a lot of weird things going on. And no matter what dog it was that we had throughout my life in this house, at night, my dogs would always stare at the same part of the hill on the side of the house. Like they were hearing something. Every dog. Those dogs didn't know each other. Like, it would be like one died. Yeah. They're just passing stories of those old houses to each other as they come in the house. But no, it was like totally random.
That is weird.
They'd walk outside, and the second they heard it, they were staring at the top of the hill. It was always at night.
Yeah.
It didn't happen at the day, which always made it interesting. And it was very dark. There's no neighbors.
Could it have just been that they didn't like that they couldn't see it?
Maybe.
Tucker does that. He stares in the darkness waiting to see something.
Yeah. They know. It's almost like children too. They have like the veil is thinner, you know?
Yeah. And that's why like when that happened, I like went and got Tucker and Charlie and I was like, let's go in the kitchen and see how you feel about things. And they were like totally fine. And I was like, okay, well, I put them back and then went back to the couch and continued my night and nothing happened. Like I'm not a like this must be a scary thing person. I'm not. Like I do find those things fascinating. 100%. I like to listen to confessionals. I like to listen to the people on here. I enjoy that. But like I have a normalcy bias to where I don't want those things around me. I don't want that to be happening. I constantly being like, this is what's happening.
Yeah. My perception is just throwing me off. You know?
And the other thing is like, if those things are real, I think I'm fueling them by being scared of them. And like
they feed off the fear.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that.
I think they do.
If it's a demon, I don't want to be scared of it. If it's my dishwasher, I don't want to be scared of it.
That's the soundbite. Well, I think at some point I want to have you on it like officially to talk Atlantis, because that is a whole situation that I really want people to hear you talk about, and we'll do that.
I will say there's a lot of people that talk about Atlantis.
Oh yeah, but
I don't like to talk about the things they like to talk about.
Yeah, you've got a whole different angle on it.
A whole different angle, and it's not that I have a different theory. It's just the things they find interesting, I don't find interesting.
Right.
They are like, where was it? We're like, look at this place on Earth. And I'm like, don't care about any of that. I care about like the things she was talking about, like where did the idea come from? What is the genesis of it? What is is it something we all talk about? Every culture knows about from a different name, like debunking the ideas of Lemuria and all of these things that are like much more modern stories and legends. Like Lemuria it's not a thing from history. Right. It's a guy was like, oh, I think that like there were lemurs in India and lemurs in Madagascar that were the same. I wonder if there was a land bridge and that would have been called Lemuria. And then Blavatsky was like, no, Lemuria was this ancient. And it's like, okay, good.
It's just tangent on tangent.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's freaking great.
And then the Tartaria, all that, like it's a totally different thing. And that's I think the Tartaria thing's a psyop, honestly, but to make people look
Speaking
crazy.
of psyops.
Yeah.